Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Real Life Solutions with Uncle T. You know, I want to talk to y'all about the dirty, scandalous stuff that go on with foster care. And, you know, so many people refuse to be foster parents. You know, and a lot of the kids who are in foster care, you know, they do need help, but a lot of people are not going to be involved with foster care. For one, is that I understand both sides, where people are saying that they don't want to be involved with foster care due to the fact of how the Department of Child Protective Services, how they are. And also people say, I don't want to deal or bring any of these bad kids, into my home. It's terrible. Some of y'all don't have no idea about what the foster care system is like. We were just like, young kids who want to be teachers, who think that we're going to change the education process and education around the country and how things are taught to our kids. And I was, how you really don't know how the education system is until you get into it, get involved in it, and then you realize, man, this is a really jacked up part of our government. And we realized the same thing when we got involved with foster care. And my wife and I, we were foster parents probably maybe 10 to 12 years. And, during that time, we probably fostered maybe I would say a good guess, anywhere from 20 to 25 kids may have passed through our home. We were involved in ministry and things of that nature when my wife and I were a lot younger. And we heard, through our church, somebody who was doing it. And so we said, wow, that'd be something maybe we would like to do, is to give somebody a home to start, to get their life together, so that they would, let me fix my camera here, so that they would, get their lives together, and maybe they could, turn things around and maybe be able to go back home. And man, when we got involved with foster care, we did not know a lot of things that were going on. And you only find out these things is when you talk to other foster parents. And, it's just like a business. It's like word of mouth. Word of mouth travels, and everybody, tells their experiences and some of the things that they went through. And that's how you learn about the foster care program. And one of the things you have to understand, it doesn't matter how much you try to solicit for help. It's just going to continually be the same thing over and over again. People are not coming forth wanting to be foster parents. What happens? You're getting people involved to make a check to do foster care, to assist with expenses. 2 to 3 years is usually about all that people will be involved with foster care. A child is usually in the foster care system anywhere usually between 9 and 10 months. Pretty much a short time, unless there's something really major that's going on. Unless there's something major going on in a child's life, or depends on how complicated the situation is. Or it could be just a few weeks, or it could be a few months, or it could be a few years. And a lot of times you find kids that stay in foster care for years because the parents' rights have been taken away from them. In the state of North Carolina, there's probably right now there's about 11,258 foster parents right now in the state of North Carolina. As far as the licensed homes, in the state of North Carolina, it's about 5,436. But the main thing we complain about as foster parents is the same thing it was then. It's the same thing it was now. And we're talking about 15, 20 years ago. And it's the same thing now people are complaining about now across the country, is that people hate how Child Protective Services or the agency would treat them. You know, how some of the social workers, the guardian ad litems, some of the therapists, usually the therapists were pretty cool, but it's usually the social workers or the guardian ad litems. And the most common complaint were the lack of respect, the lack of training that you got, communication, and support is pretty much the biggest complaint that we talk to amongst other foster parents. You know, a lot of times people complain about there wasn't a lot of communication about a child's needs before placing a child in your house. They would just go, you know, they would get a call. We got a child that needs a placement. Your house is a proper placement. I don't have any information about the child. I don't have anything. I don't know anything. I have to find out tomorrow or sometime this week everything that's going on with the child. And they just snatch the child up, bring him to your house. You don't know what's going on. You don't know nothing. Child's upset. Child can't tell you nothing. A lot of times they don't know unless they're teenagers. There was no training available a lot of times for some of the issues that the kids were having. And when you talk to the social worker about it, it was ignored. Or if you had to go over their heads and talk to their supervisor, then they had attitude with you because, you know, you went over their heads because, you know, it appears that they weren't properly doing their job, and to assist you and give you all the tools that you need to be successful, and, you know, as far as helping this child. And most of everybody wanted to be treated like professionals, you know, because it's almost like you was just a babysitter. All they wanted you there for was just to be a babysitter. You know, you were a babysitter and we're the professionals. You're the babysitter. You just tell us what's going on and we'll take care of everything else. You know, there were a lot of people who had experience. There are a lot of people who had raised children. You know, everybody that's in foster care is not just grandma who's retired from the school system and who decided to do foster care. I know a lot of me and my wife, we worked full-time jobs and we had things going on. So we had a hectic life. The least thing you needed was a social worker with an attitude, they want you to fit everything around their schedule, not around your schedule. That was one of the main problems that we had. My wife, you know, on the job that she had at the time, she couldn't just get on the phone and start talking to a social worker. And she would tell the social worker, if you can, call my husband. I can't talk to you right now. The social worker had a problem with that. But that's our livelihood. So if my wife says, I can't talk to you, I can't talk to you. And that's just the way it is. And if there's going to be a problem, then I guess you need to come pick the kids up, because that's our livelihood. That's how we make it. That's how we feed our family. And we're not about to put ourselves out just for your agency to try to assist you with foster care. And that's one of the things they don't like. They don't like that. They don't like that at all. They want to intrude on you and tell you, you know, when they can do this and when they can do that, but not try to work with the parent to say, hey, what would be a good time I could come by there? Let's try to work this in or whatnot. Just one of the experiences that we had. We were young. we were real young, in our 20s, when we first started, experience with foster care. And we had some teenagers. We had one teenager, and man, that was a real experience, a real eye-opener. She was just a young girl, and she was, their family was from the area where we lived, so we knew a lot of people, in that family or, in that city. And man, she did not, just a rebellious teenager who just didn't want to do right. I mean, supposed to went to a football game that night, right? So she wanted to go to the football game, and we was like, okay, we wasn't gonna try to be so hardcore foster parents, be hardcore parents, Okay, so it was a home game. The high school was probably no more than 6 or 7 miles from the house, and it was a big game. So after the game was over with, she did not come home. So we're like, where is she? Trying to find, any friends. We got in touch with the social worker. She's not here. She didn't come back home. We don't know where she is. And man, that was something. And when we did find her, she was at an apartment complex, and she was with a bunch of guys. We had got the police involved. We were just at our wits' end. We didn't know what to do, really, because we were brand new. And we got the police involved and things like that. And she was in an apartment with, I think it was 4 or 5 guys. And they were having an orgy. And I think it was one girl and her and about 4 or 5 guys, and they were just switching up, swapping, and they were just running trains, man. I mean, my wife, she just couldn't deal with it. I mean, she was just like, I can't do this. Because that it scared, I think more like it scared her more than anything. Is that this young teenage girl, we couldn't find her, and then we did find her. She was in a house with a bunch of guys, and everybody just having relations. You would think it was a brothel. When you walked in, you would have thought it was a brothel. And that was just one of the situations that we had, and where we realized, no, we can't do teenagers, because that's not our calling. Teenagers were not our calling. That's something we could not do. So another situation where we had prejudice, borderline racism. Had a guardian ad litem come to our house. We had kids in our home, and they were young kids, I think 8, 9, and young, they were like maybe 4 or 5 years old. Somehow the mother lost her rights to the kids, and the father was coming to get custody of the children, so get them out of the system. He was going to take over the kids. He flew from Philadelphia here to North Carolina. Guardian ad litem sat in our house, sat on my couch, and said, out of her words, I can still remember her exact words, just like it was yesterday. She said, I don't think that he deserves those kids. When I saw him, he just reminds me of a playboy. He looks like a playboy to me. And I don't think the kids need to be with him. I think we need to put those kids up for adoption. And I was looking at her, and I looked at my wife. She looked at me, and I said, well, you know what did he do? I mean, what did he do to make you feel that he was a playboy and that he would not be a good parent to come from Philadelphia and take his kids and go back and raise his children? Well, he hadn't done anything. But it's just his look. It's just the way he looks to me, that he's just a playboy, and I don't think that really he's going to be a good match. Okay, so here we go. We got a woman here who is trying to keep the father away from his kids, and he hadn't even done anything. He's come all the way from Philadelphia to take custody of his children. And you got a guardian ad litem sitting here speaking prejudice right in front of us, and didn't have any remorse, didn't skip a beat. Da. And had no problem, and could care less. And so we reported her to a social worker, and we reported her to the head of the guardian ad litems and told them what happened. We had to write a statement, and man, that's bad, man. That was really bad. And we actually saw prejudice. That was the first time that we actually saw prejudice in the foster care system. So that tells me that if one guardian ad litem was talking like that, how many more others, or how many other social workers who have gotten people's children not reconnected to their families because of prejudice? And I'm not saying everybody's like that. Not all guardian ad litem or social workers are like that, because there are some good social workers and there are some good guardian ad litems. We just happen to got a hold of a bad one. Another social worker that we got involved with in that 10-year period was a social worker who really had issues. She thought that she was going to dictate everything to you. She thought that she was going to dictate when she was going to have meetings with you, when she was going to come by. You need to make time. Didn't care about your schedule. Didn't care about nothing. And there was also allegations that this social worker, if she had problems with you and she didn't like you, she was actually getting people jammed up on charges. She was actually getting people jammed up on charges and making false reports so that you could not be a foster parent. Well, she didn't have proof or nothing, but she would write negative reports to where people wouldn't place children in your home because she didn't like you. Nothing you really did. She didn't like you. And come to find out, she got jammed up because the neighboring county had people who had kids from this county made complaints about her, and they did investigations to find out that this social worker was making false allegations and actually falsifying documents and trying to get good foster parents in trouble because she didn't like them. And you know what happened to her? She didn't get fired or get demoted. She got promoted. She got promoted to a higher position. And that's usually how it is. That's usually how it is that a social worker or anybody, this is government. This is just typically government work. When government workers a lot of times do stuff, they don't get fired, they get promoted. And usually the person who is the whistleblower and tell everybody as to what happened, usually you're the one who gets blackballed. we had some experiences. And this is one of the reasons why nobody wants to be a foster parent, because they tie your hands. And don't get me wrong, y'all, they got some bad kids out here. They got some kids who got some real problems. And I know some people think that they can save the world and they can save the children. And they think that, well, we get them in the church and we give them some structure and things like that, and everything would change. Trust me, y'all, you got some badass kids out here that will cause you to lose your license and also will cause you to go to jail, because you're gonna be like, yo, come pick them up right now, because little Johnny ain't gonna be coming over here busting my walls out, punching my walls and putting holes in my walls. And especially people have nice houses. I know we had a nice place. I mean, I'm sorry, I can understand that. You know, little Johnny ain't coming over here putting holes in the walls, want to set fires. He won't, you got to watch everything. He can't play with matches because he'll burn your house down. You know, I mean, it's a double-edged sword. Not only you got that side when dealing with the children, but then you got the side where you got to deal with workers. And sometimes you'd rather deal with the kids than to deal with the workers. And they put all these restrictions on you. You can't do this, you can't do that, you can't do this. People are not coming forth with all that nonsense. People are not coming forth. And they're like, I'm not gonna let no child come in my house and be disruptive in my house, especially with my kids and my family. We're not gonna do that. And then also, we're not gonna have no social workers coming into my house or guarding ad litems trying to come in my house and tell me what I'm gonna do in my house. And if you got a problem with it, you can go ahead and take your kids, place them somewhere else. You can take this license and you can go ahead and put it in the shredder. You know, and that's what it comes down to, because people are not going to put up with that crap. There was a study that was done, I think a lady named Miss Chu, the THO, who was the editor-in-chief. She did some statistics and some comparisons on white children, 50% of the total population, who make up 44% of the foster care population. A lot of these kids are forced out of the system. They don't get the help they need. They don't get the training they need. You know, you got, 39%. You know, when these kids turn 18 or 19 years old, they're just kicked out of the system. They're kicked out on the street. They're done. You got 39% are just homeless. You got 44% of boys, 22% of females that are incarcerated or in trouble with the criminal justice system. 22% of the girls are pregnant when they turn 18 to 19 years old. And you got half of those out of the 44% who suffer from mental health. So these kids have been taken out of their homes. Parental rights have been taken away. A huge percentage, if nobody adopts these kids, a big portion of them end up in the penitentiaries. Another portion of them are pregnant. Another portion have all kind of mental health issues. Nasty, y'all. It is just really bad, because you think that an organization that was supposed to be a help to children, man, it's more of a detriment than anything. And I'm not saying that we should leave children in bad situations, but I just sometimes think that the system, is worse long term. By taking kids long term, is worse to do that than not try to get a family member or someone in the family that will want to take the children. That's who it was. I was trying to remember her name. Her name was Kathy Chun, the THO editor-in-chief. And this was a survey that she did in October 20th of 2020. And she found that the statistics of child abuse and neglect from black families, right, is lower in population than white families. And that black children represented only 14% of the total child population. They made up 23% of the child population. So the abuse is higher with white families than it is black families. So I thought that was very interesting, because most of the time you usually see black kids. And check this out. This is another thing that you guys don't know. White families can raise black kids, Hispanic children, but black families can't raise white kids. That's right. That's right. When we were foster parents, white foster parents could raise any race. They could place any race of children in their home, and they could even adopt. But when a black family wanted to adopt a white child or have white children in a black home, it was shunned upon. They wouldn't do it. I'm telling y'all, the system is nasty, man. The system is dirty. I don't know why it's like that, because we always used to ask, well, why come it seem like white parents can get black kids, but why come we can't raise white children in our home? They don't like that. I don't know who doesn't like it, but our social workers would not do it. That was like, she told us that it was frowned upon. There are some things that need to be brought to light about the foster care system and why people do not want to be foster parents. And I know for me personally, I don't ever want to be a foster parent ever again. Because the way things are now, it was bad then, and it is really bad now. And just simple little things. I mean, just like when my kids, I took care of my kids, they needed laptops. I had 3 children in my home, and they were all in different grades. They didn't want to give us but 1 laptop for 3 children. You know, and I'm like, okay, the kids have a substance that they can use every year for their educational needs, for disabilities, or anything that they need. The laptop was only going to cost $200 or $300 per child. And I think they were allotted, I want to say $500 to $1,000 that they could get for each child. They didn't even want to give the kids their allotments. They're going to tell us you can have 1 laptop per house and all the kids have to share the same laptop. Well, that's not going to work. When you got 1 child who needs the laptop at school and the other 2 kids got homework and the other child has things they have to do, if the child is allotted their money at the end of the year, why come the kids can't have their allotment for each child? I mean, it was just so bad, y'all. It was just so bad to where, well, this is some of the things we complain about. If this is the policy and this is the rules, why come you guys are not following the rules? Why you guys are not doing what you're supposed to do to help the foster parent, help these children to be the best that they can be? And you get so frustrated dealing with these social workers, man. And the social workers, some of them are just new. Some of them are being trained by bad social workers. Some of them are just have no idea what they're doing, and they just trying to feel their way through with a flashlight, trying to find their way through the darkness. They don't have resources. They're short-staffed. And then you get kids who go to school to be a social worker. Once they start doing the job, they realize they don't want to do it. They want to do something else, because they were under the impression, I'm going to be a social worker and I'm going to help all these little children. I'm going to help all these little kids and all these kids being abused and all these kids this and that. And they realize, man, this is not what I thought it was going to be. because the system is not what it's supposed to be. The system is not set up to be what it's supposed to do. It looks good on paper, but when you're actually in the system and actually working and maneuvering around through the system, you realize that system is just like the criminal justice system. It is jacked up. The foster care system is the same way. It is jacked up. Leave your comments. Tell me what you think. Have you been involved with the foster care system? Do you know kids who are in foster care? Do you have any stories to tell? Any other foster parents out there that got some wild stories to tell? Please let me know. I don't expose anyone. I don't tell anything because I don't care whether they like what I'm saying or not. It is the truth. It's the system. It needs to be changed. It is what it is. So this is Uncle T. If you haven't subscribed, I know you guys like my content. I know you look at my content. I know you look at my stuff. And I know you sit and watch my videos. You guys, it won't hurt to subscribe. What's it gonna hurt to subscribe? Help Uncle T with his subscription so I can get this stuff out here into the YouTube algorithm, so I can get my content pushed out further to more people. Give me some likes, give me some shares. And in the meantime, Uncle T is out. You guys take care.